Hi, I'm Lindsay Bugby from The Postman's Knock, and today I am going to teach you how to create faux calligraphy using a regular gel pen. Faux calligraphy is a type of calligraphy that you can create using any writing instrument, so a pen like we're using today, a pencil, marker, chalk, whatever. You could even write faux calligraphy in the sand. In faux calligraphy, you create thin upstrokes and you manually fill in downstrokes to create a pointed pen calligraphy effect. Now, to be clear, faux calligraphy is calligraphy because it's decorative writing, but it's not pointed pen calligraphy. So it's a technique where we're mimicking pointed pen calligraphy, but we're not actually coming in with the fuss and the skill required to create pointed pen calligraphy. Just to clarify, I am somebody who absolutely loves pointed pen calligraphy. I adore the meditative quality of it, the way that the pen just dances across the paper, the thick upstrokes, the thin downstrokes, that wet ink that evaporates to be dry. It's all super cool to me and I love it and I hope that you'll try it. But in the meantime, I feel like faux calligraphy is a great gateway into pointed pen calligraphy because faux calligraphy is how I started learning pointed pen calligraphy. The reason I started with faux calligraphy was because I tried pointed pen calligraphy back in 2012 when I first started learning calligraphy, and the pen would not do anything that I wanted it to do. I just couldn't understand how to use it, but I wanted that instant gratification of making beautiful calligraphy-like letters. So I defaulted to what I knew, which was a regular writing instrument, and I figured out how to get that pointed pen effect without actually using a pointed pen. My hope is that you will cotton to faux calligraphy as well, and once you get the hang of it, you'll be like me and think, you know what? I think I can do this pointed pen thing. So let's begin and learn how to use a regular writing instrument to create faux calligraphy. I designed a worksheet set for you to accompany this video. So this worksheet set demos exactly how to create faux calligraphy. You start off making monoline, cursive-like alphabet characters. Then anywhere there's a downstroke, so anywhere your pen goes down to create a stroke, you reinforce that stroke. So let's do the A together to demo. All right, so I'm making this A here and I go down, so we know that that was a downstroke. And then I go up, upstroke, and then I'm coming down again, and then up. So downstroke here, and then I have a horizontal stroke. So anytime your pen is moving up or over, that equals a thin stroke. You don't need to do anything further with that stroke. But anytime your pen has moved down to create a stroke, you need to reinforce that stroke. So with this A here, we know that we went down on this part, so we add a reinforcement stroke there. And the reinforcement stroke is going to be roughly parallel to that first stroke that you made. You're hugging that stroke, but preferably in a tapered way. So you'll notice that the stroke tapers at the joint up here, and then it also tapers at this end joint here. And then to finish up, we'll go to our second downstroke, so where our pen went down the second time, and make this stroke. Then, if you want to create that realistic pointed pen calligraphy effect, you fill these downstrokes in. And that's it. You've created a faux calligraphy letter. So download this worksheet at the Postman's Knock website, and you have a full alphabet of faux calligraphy letters in TPK's popular Amy style calligraphy, which is a pointed pen calligraphy style I have worksheets for on the site. And you'll see that you have instructions for creating each letter in faux calligraphy. So I'm going to show you how to fill out this worksheet just using the B since we already made the A, and then you will go through the rest of the worksheet on your own. Give it a few days because it'll take a while. It's the full, uppercase, lowercase alphabet. So what you're going to do is you'll trace over this dotted letter first using this monoline technique. And you can use any writing instrument you have. You don't have to use a pen, just anything that has a fairly thin line when it writes is perfect. And then make the downstrokes. So a big question I get with faux calligraphy is, well, how do I know where, like what side to put the downstroke on? This side or this side? So let's talk through this. If we put the downstroke on this side, do you see how crowded that makes the letter? Now this loop is touching the downstroke. So instead, the obvious choice is to put the downstroke in on this side. And let me make this letter again so we can have a fresh start. I just wanted to demo how making the downstroke on the right side didn't quite work for this letter. All right, so let's put in that downstroke here. Because we know as we're making this letter, we go over, down, and then we're going up again, down, over. Horizontal strokes we don't do anything to, down. And then we'll fill that in. Okay, so let's do it 3 more times. We're going to go up, and up, and down again, and then up. Now let's identify those downstrokes. A really easy way to do that is to trace the letter in the air to identify when your pen goes down. And whenever your pen goes down, you make that downstroke. Again, let's trace it in the air. All right, it went down. We'll make this downstroke. Over, we don't do anything. Down, fill it in. And then twice more. And now we've got a beautiful row of B's there. Ideally, you would fill in the strokes on this B as well, but since I demoed that to show you where not to put your stroke, I didn't fill it in yet. But this is how I want your entire worksheet to look. So you're just going to go through and fill out all of those pages with the faux calligraphy technique. So why practice faux calligraphy? There are a couple of reasons. First, it is going to get you acquainted with the idea of upstrokes and downstrokes and when to create those downstrokes. And that's important knowledge in pointed pen calligraphy because anytime you come to a downstroke in pointed pen calligraphy, you need to remind yourself to apply pressure to the nib so then you can make that nice thick downstroke. And that's a whole other story how that works that I can teach you in a different YouTube video. But for now, just know that you need to do something different on the downstrokes, and faux calligraphy is going to remind you to pay attention to those downstrokes. Now, some calligraphers say, oh, well, you start with faux calligraphy to build up that muscle memory. That's not accurate because you're using a totally different technique to write faux calligraphy versus pointed pen calligraphy. So with pointed pen calligraphy, you are using different muscles. You are pushing and pulling on the pen and your fingers are barely moving. In faux calligraphy, we are using a lot of hand action. So you're not actually building up muscle memory, but there is so much value in acquainting yourself with that concept of upstroke and downstroke. Secondly, and equally importantly, you are learning a technique that will benefit you for years to come, well after you understand how to create pointed pen calligraphy. So faux calligraphy comes in handy in a couple of different scenarios. First, if let's say you're out in the wild, you're traveling, you don't have your calligraphy tools, but you need to make calligraphy, faux calligraphy is a great technique to know. So for example, in 2016, I traveled to a wedding in Brazil, and right before the wedding, the groom came up to me and he said, hey, we need these headers written in our wedding guest book. Of course, I didn't have my tools and I was wearing a gorgeous dress that I didn't want anywhere near calligraphy ink. So I just used a regular pen and the faux calligraphy technique to write the headers in their wedding guest book. Also, if you are working on a surface that won't accommodate the pointed pen, and there are plenty of those surfaces, you will need to know how to create faux calligraphy. So one of my very favorite things to create faux calligraphy on is chalkboards. Pointed pen calligraphy is not going to be useful when it comes to writing on chalkboards because first of all, that rough texture of the chalkboard is tough to deal with when it comes to the pointed pen. But secondly, you probably want to create calligraphy that's much larger than you could actually create with a pointed pen calligraphy nib. So you know that you can create a large faux calligraphy letter, fill it in, and people will be able to read it from afar. All right, once you finish practicing all of your letters, you will get to page 7 here where we will practice writing words using faux calligraphy. So the process is going to be the same. You'll trace over the word in a monoline, meaning that we don't add in those reinforcement strokes quite yet. And then you're going to add in the downstrokes. So again, we're going to trace over our letters in the air. This is a downstroke, upstroke, pen goes down, horizontal stroke, pen goes down, upstroke, horizontal stroke, pen goes down. I'm also going to give this dot a little bit more space, and then upstroke, horizontal stroke, pen goes down, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, and then downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, and downstroke. And you'll note that this is actually a pretty neat look when you don't fill in those downstrokes. And when I very first started as a calligrapher and I was so terrified of that pointed pen, I had products on Etsy, like these little place cards, where I would write the person's name in faux calligraphy. And I just wouldn't fill in the downstrokes. Just like this. And people really loved those place cards. It was pretty cool. So you don't have to fill in the downstrokes, but if you want to create that true pointed pen look, then go ahead and fill in the downstrokes. And while I fill in these downstrokes, I'm not going to speed up the video this time. I am going to tell you a story about faux calligraphy. So the first tutorial I wrote on the TPK blog about faux calligraphy was, I think, in 2013, maybe 2014. But I had this image of my faux calligraphy that went with the blog post, and it was a piece that I had created in faux calligraphy. Let me show it to you really quick. And this image made its way onto a Facebook page for traditional pointed pen calligraphers, and it caused quite a stir because they didn't believe that I had created that calligraphy using this pen. They thought that I had used a dip pen, a pointed pen, and simply put that pen in the photo and said, oh yeah, I created this calligraphy using a regular pen, you can too, just as a way to get people to come to my website. So there was a bit of outrage over that, but then there was outrage over the fact that I was touting that anybody can create calligraphy, because I really think anybody can. And it doesn't have to be pointed pen calligraphy. You know, if you don't connect with the pointed pen, but you love using a regular pen to create calligraphy, I think that's great. Not everybody in that Facebook group agreed with that philosophy. So faux calligraphy has been scandalous for a few years now, but I just think it's awesome. I think that it's great that you can take out a regular pen wherever you are using any sort of writing surface and create calligraphy that looks like you made it with a pointed pen. Okay, so for this section, you are going to try writing these words on your own once you've traced over the dotted words. So, in this case, you would just write the monoline version of birthday. Try your best to mimic what I have done. To the left here, it's okay if it doesn't look exactly the same. Obviously, I'm writing over the demo that I created for you here. And once you've created your monoline version, then you will add in the strokes and fill them in if you feel like it. Now, as you'll understand by the time you reach this word section on page 7, the disadvantage of faux calligraphy is it takes a really long time to make, because instead of creating the upstrokes and the downstrokes all at once, you're going back in and manually filling out the downstrokes. So that generally is something that serves as motivation to finally dip your toes into the world of pointed pen calligraphy. But very, very cool technique, great way to get started in the world of calligraphy. It's also a great thing to know how to make if you want to infuse some playfulness into your calligraphy. For example, you can create faux calligraphy, fill in the downstrokes with a gradient, and then incorporate some pointed pen calligraphy into a project like I did on an envelope one time. It's just the sky is the limit when it comes to this technique, and I hope that learning this technique empowers you to play with your calligraphy, to know that you can create beautiful lettering, to potentially move on to pointed pen calligraphy someday, which I am more than happy to help you with. I've got a great online course that's waiting for you on the website. And in the meantime, here's your free worksheet. You can download that on the TPK website. And I am excited to see how you do. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.